You found it. Your home for the best content on your favorite team, the Fighting Tigers of LSU. Do us a favor. Subscribe to the channel. Leave your comments below. And be sure to smash that like button. Well, certainly LSU was hoping for a better postseason destination, but it will be the Reliaquest Bowl, New Year's Day, 11 a.m. Central Time against the Wisconsin Badgers. Of course, Tigers and Badgers did a little neutral home-and-home back in 2014 and 2016. Good opportunity to check in with our buddy Bill Schmid from 97.3 The Game up there in Milwaukee, also part of the Badger Football Radio Network. Bill, we appreciate it, man. Good to chat again. How are you?
I'm fired up, man. I appreciate you having me on here. And you said that Tiger fans were hoping for maybe a little bit better draw. This is the best draw that Badger fans could have imagined 3 weeks ago. So two very different feelings about heading to Tampa on January 1st.
Okay, why are Wisconsin fans excited about this one?
Well, anything very warm weather, and the thought of potentially – there was a thought that it could be Detroit, and I mean, talk about a consolation prize there, or Pinstripe Bowl in New York. Didn't make a whole lot of people all that excited. Nashville felt like a pretty good possibility as the destination, but as a couple of things broke, Tampa, Gulf side of Florida, many people excited about that. And plenty of snowbirds already down there wearing their Badger red. So many people excited about heading down to Florida.
Wisconsin finishes 7-5, 5-4 in the league there in the first year under Luke Fickell. How did this end up being the draw for Wisconsin? Can you tell us how it played out from the Big Ten side?
From the Big Ten side, it moved around after Ohio State got selected in, along with Penn State, into the New Year's Six bowl games, which funneled Wisconsin up, which to be completely honest with you, I don't know exactly how that part of the tiebreaker played itself out, but this is what happens when the Big Ten West is as down comparative to where the Big Ten East is, where all three, Michigan, Ohio State, and Penn State, all reside from. Now, Iowa also gets themselves a decent draw in there. They were the Big Ten West champions, and then Wisconsin finished, I believe, second or third, along with Northwestern on the Big Ten West side, after the final regular season shook on out. But for Wisconsin, more than anything, Matt, a couple of weeks ago, there was a real possibility that the longest bowl streak active in the Big Ten was going to be snapped by the Badgers. They haven't missed one in over 20 years and take bowl games rather seriously. So a couple of weeks ago, there was some real questions. They had lost games to Northwestern and Indiana, two programs that you just can't lose to, and got thoroughly beat. So winning their last 2 weeks and being able to win two rivalry games, two trophy games, was a huge way for Luke Fickell to close out in year number one, which all cards on the table had been a really trying year. He admitted one of, if not the most difficult he's gone through in his coaching tenure.
Yeah. And Bill Schmid's our guest, 97.3 The Game up there in Milwaukee, also part of the Badger Football Radio Network. What my understanding, Bill, from afar is going from Paul Chryst, obviously, here to Luke Fickell, that it was going to be sort of an evolution offensively. I mean, I think everybody knows Graham Mertz spent this year in Gainesville. So can you walk us through offensively that change, that transition this year with the Badgers?
So the change, which was very much on paper, not as much necessarily in practice, Matt, if that makes sense. I'll get to it in a couple of seconds here. But the way that it was at least presented to Wisconsin fans, there was an element of air raid that was going to be brought in. And those two words were blasted through the fan base, and oh my God, we're going to be an air raid team. We're going to be like Texas Tech. Well, Phil Longo coached with Mike Leach at one point and took elements of his offense, which was spread, move the ball around, few fullbacks, which was very different than 21 personnel that the Badgers have been running for decades, of multiple tight ends, multiple running backs, fullbacks. There were no fullbacks in this offense, and it took some time for. To be honest with you, I think the biggest issue was the offensive line to really grasp what they were being asked to do, which was just so different from a pure gap scheme, a lot of pulling, a lot of power eye, and now you're going to three wide receivers, one man 5 yards back alongside a quarterback in the shotgun, and that philosophical difference was pretty drastic and didn't go, I would say, as planned, but I think at the end of the year, they were what Phil Longo and company envisioned they would be, which is a team that utilizes all 53 and a third of the field while knowing they can grow big physical offensive linemen in the state of Wisconsin and here up in the Midwest, and grab running backs that have good vision and are capable of making guys miss. You know, Phil Longo at North Carolina put two tailbacks in the NFL in the top 3 rounds of the draft from Michael Carter and company, and they were dynamic backs, and they were very, very productive in that offense, and that's exactly what he wants to do. But initially, the shock was, oh my God, they never go under center? Guys, I would just like to see him go under center with, a wishbone backfield 1 or 2 times. That was completely gone. And if there were 1 to 2 tight ends in the formation, you were lucky. And Badger fans were still struggling to fully comprehend it, but towards the end of the year, it looked a little bit more like what I believe they have envisioned. And to be honest with you, what modern college football really has become. So that was a big step in changing what everything about your program really had been, because the identity had been power I, power gap scheme, run the ball 45 times, and then maybe throw a deep cross on 3rd and 9, try and catch somebody off guard and run some play action. So very different from that standpoint.
And Bill Schmid's our guest here for a couple more minutes. 97.3 The Game up there in Milwaukee, part of the Badger Radio Network. We also, of course, it was all the from Barry Alvarez, Ron Dane, all the way through the list, and Paul. Because we all know what they were offensively and defensively. Of late, it was Jim Leonard. These great defenses that seemed they were in top 10 every year. Well, Jim Leonard's like an analyst at Illinois now. What is Wisconsin defensively now?
Into a 3-3-5 scheme, little different than their 3-4 that Jim Leonard had been running, which was really a college version of the Rex Ryan defense that had taken over the NFL. Jim Leonard played a dozen years in the NFL, mostly for either Rex Ryan or Rex Ryan disciples, and it brought that defense to the college level, and they were churning out outside linebackers into the NFL. Man, obviously T.J. Watt grabs the headlines, but Andrew Van Ginkel, who just had a massive weekend in the NFL this week. Nick Herbig just went this year. He was a top 90 selection. Vince Beagle really marred with injuries. You guys know him down in the New Orleans area.
Zach Bond.
Zach Bond as well. And these guys were really good high school quarterbacks, to be honest. Played against Watt and Bond when they were playing quarterback, just running over small kids in that realm, but taking extremely athletic dudes and teaching them how to rush the passer. They don't have that element this year, which is the real difference maker on their defense. But Hunter Waller is one of the Wisconsin playmakers on the defense who really is the shock and awe guy. He's utilized a lot more into a box safety look and have tried to compensate for the fact that they lost Nick Herbig, as I mentioned. Keanu Benton is playing really, really well for the Pittsburgh Steelers. He left a year early. They've missed those guys to be difference makers with 3 down. It doesn't look all that different, but what they've asked players to do is much different. And they're going to blitz. They're going to bring a lot of different looks. But most likely you're going to see 24 Hunter Waller around the football because they try to spotlight and give him as many opportunities to make plays as they can.
Bill, is there any concern of or question of opt-outs for this bowl game?
So they've had one already, and that's Braylon Allen. That was the least surprising decision that you could have told me and forecasted. A little bit surprising today. They end up losing a pair of wide receivers who have been highly productive in the old offense to the transfer portal. I don't know a whole lot about opt-outs. There's just not as many high-profile pro prospects, I think, on this roster. But definitely, Matt, they're going to be impacted by the transfer portal here before the bowl game. And I would assume right now, I believe their total is at 6 out. I think that quickly rises past double digits, maybe into the higher teens, and they are impacted that way. They've had a quarterback who was around, and many, as you know, from a coaching change, the first year, this actually sounds kind of good. You know what? Yeah, I am buying what this guy's selling. Around it for 9 months, I think you're starting to see some more realize that their opportunity to play is going to be elsewhere. So they'll have some, I don't know to the pro opt-outs, but definitely transfer kids missing time and a lot younger-looking team, which is already pretty young for the Badgers.
Man, it is, Bill, when we talk bowl games now, as impactful as any angle is who wants to be there and who has
totally
and what players are available. I mean, that's kind of where every conversation probably needs to start. We'll see as we get closer. He's on Twitter at Bill Schmid Radio. Y'all give him a follow, especially as we get closer to the game New Year's Day. Bill, we appreciate it, man. Thanks so much for jumping back aboard with us, bud.
Appreciate it, man. Call me anytime.
Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact, and be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.